Private Pyle, I think we finally found something that you do well.
Sir, yes, sir.
Show was freaking get started. Speaking of you can just do things, here's Tucker Carlson's report from this morning. Now, he teased this out last night. And I want to be fair to the FBI. Alex, we have that FBI tweet out here. It's interesting. The FBI started a rapid response account just in order to respond to this. Yikes. So they must be very, very concerned about what Tucker Carlson has to say. And Tucker released this at 8 a.m. as promised last night. And it is an absolute and total complete bombshell. It's bombshell for us because we've been covering this from the get. And we have gone through excruciatingly every single detail that is available to us. So let me just give you a really quick build up to where we were in order for Tucker Carlson to do this report. Because what Tucker gets access to is all of Matthew Thomas Crooks's comments and some of the metadata from his Google Drive. So all of his comments on various social media platforms that really give you an insight into who Thomas Crooks was and something very dark that happened to him. And then what Tucker does is he sort of fillets federal investigators, the FBI, for covering so much of this up. Because what the FBI is doing is now sitting on a mountain of data from other accounts that were encrypted or deleted, like Thomas Crooks' Snapchat, for instance. Like there's nothing there, nothing available. There was a absolute wipe clean operation here that is extremely strange on a digital perspective and a physical perspective. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's start from where we were before this report dropped to build up to Tucker's new revelations and allegations and questions. So where we were up to this point, and do we have some of our documentary footage in there? Maybe you can just play that. Just do that as a play beside. Where we were up to this point, and in some part thanks to you, the chat. We love you. We thank you for giving us the power and the ability to do investigations like this one. Within a week of President Trump getting a bullet through his head and the death of Corey Compantor and the shooting of other members of the MAGA movement, we were able to get on a rooftop in Butler and investigate ourselves. We brought our cameras to Butler and we saw something absolutely and totally chilling. We saw nothing. Do you understand? We were there within a week of this happening, and we saw nothing. You could still see the blood splatter all over the rooftop of Thomas Crooks's brains. We went there, of course, with Navy SEALs and military veterans who've been on battlefields. Corey Mills and Eli Crane, 2 members of Congress. And we did a full-scale investigation. Everything was gone. Now, I know murder scenes. Why do I know them? Because I lived in Washington, D.C., the murder capital of America, at the height of the worst murder spree in D.C. history. And I literally witnessed murders. I heard them. They were on my Ring camera on my block, and I saw the police response to them. What police would do in these murders, which were just like gangbangers, right? Druggies, junkies, gangbangers shooting each other. What police would do is they would lock down the blocks for days sometimes. Days. This is for your average junkie, your average druggie. Whatever, all human life is precious. That is something that's so important for Christians. We are all created in the image of God. I'm not saying that someone's life is worth more. What I am saying is from a law enforcement perspective, clearly the shooting of a president in the head merits an absolute and total lockdown of the would-be murder scene and murder scene of Corey Compantor. everything preserved, all available data, trapped, encased in glass. And when I went there Donald Trump, a week after he got hit in the head with a bullet, nothing. The entire place had been scrubbed and scraped clean. That was so strange to witness. And we detailed in our documentary, which stands up and I'm so proud of, everything that was available at the time and showed the extreme peculiarities of what leads up to President Trump getting shot. And here's something that was bewildering to us and to the snipers that were there working with us, because we went there with trained snipers, is that the security protocol for this event was maliciously eroded to ensure that if something bad were to happen, that it did. And it could. We focused on the watchtower up here. You can see here a water tower that has Overwatch. Everybody knows this. This has been a principle of war fighting and of establishing dominance in a secured area, whether on a battlefield or in a security protocol, that you need a place to watch what is happening, to see all available threats. Not only was there nobody up on the water tower here in order to, like, what you could have easily seen Thomas Crooks, you could have yeeted Thomas Crooks minutes before he even had eyesight of Donald Trump. Not only was nobody available, this is our drone footage, by the way. Not only was nobody up there, but there was no drone coverage at all. The Secret Service had no interest in watching the skies, in watching potential threats to Donald Trump. Thomas Crooks was lumbering into security forces that day. Thomas Crooks tried to enter the rally with a rangefinder. Thomas Crooks flew his own drone over the rally right as the anti-drone protocol system went down. Do you know this? That Thomas Crooks was doing his own drone reconnaissance to try and kill Donald Trump? And the way he was able to do it, not even the most incompetent of morons in the federal government know that you have to have anti-drone technology, right, when the president's about to speak, or the assumed president. Remember, at this time, Donald Trump was doing great. I mean, it's not like Donald Trump was a laggard at all. People assumed that President Trump was going to win at this time, but nonetheless, he is the candidate for one of two major parties. And what they ended up doing was shutting the system off as Thomas Crooks flew his drone. Then Thomas Crooks, gangly, lumbering, goofbally. ALS, can you find that funny photo of him just like wobbling around outside of the Trump rally? I mean, it's just a good example of Thomas Crooks. There's a famous photo of like somebody was just captured him, and he's just like lunking around, slamming into security forces. So he got turned away for a rangefinder. He got into like an altercation with a local cop. He got put a mark on him by the police. They were trailing him and his strange black backpack. Then he climbs up on top of the radiator. We actually went and saw it. You could see his footprints. I looked at the man's footprints on the air conditioning unit. Thomas Crooks lumbers up onto the rooftop. There you go. Perfect. Thank you. Here he is. There's Thomas Crooks. There you go. It was like really trying, like Thomas Crooks really trying to like, really secretive there. They might as well be in a ghillie suit, like a real proper trained to fly under the radar. This is, of course, Thomas Crooks getting turned away from security after they spotted him with a rangefinder, a drone, trying to get into the rally. He'd been marked by local law enforcement and still was able to climb up. Here's a photo of it right before. Was able to climb up onto the rooftop. And then, amazingly, when he was on the rooftop, there was a sniper position that would have easily been able to take out Thomas Crooks. Both those snipers got recalled. Why the hell did that happen? The official story is that they got locked out of the building. Well, who controlled the key cards to the building? How the hell did the local sniper team not have Overwatch? Even if they weren't up in the water tower, why didn't they see Tom? They were sitting there right in a window. I know we have the footage buried somewhere. But they were sitting there right in the Eli Crane footage. They were sitting there right in a window where they could have seen Thomas Crooks. They could have taken him out. You know, people were on the ground. People were on the ground looking up at Thomas Crooks, filming him, saying, "There's a sniper on the roof." That's how obvious this all was. This is what an obvious op it all was. So many concurrent miracles had to occur for Thomas Crooks to be able to get those shots off. 100 miracles had to occur in sequence for Thomas Crooks to be able to actually fire his weapon and not get killed on his way or arrested, which is presumably what should have happened. This is such a damning video. This is the video of where the sniper's nest was on the rooftop that would have clearly shown. There it is, right there. There we go. This is the video where the local police had a sniper position that could have yeeted Thomas Crooks. Get me the video from the ground. I want the video from the ground. This is my Zapruder film, guys. I want the video from the ground from the people filming Thomas Crooks. You can see him, because I've been up on this roof, you can see him walking over this kind of, this hallway section here, this sort of middle div, right before the roof line. That easement, you could see him like falling and like, and again, like he's not a particularly athletic person. It's kind of like lumbering through it. People were filming it from the ground. Do you have that, Klein? When you have it, throw it up. You could see, like right here, there was a sniper. This is the sniper position. Both these local cops would have been able to absolutely end Thomas Crooks. Plenty of time to eliminate the threat. Listen to this. Listen.
Someone's on top of the roof. Look.
So this is Trump talking. Listen to this. They'll never show you this.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look. There he is right there. Right there. See him? He's laying down. See him?
Yeah, he's laying down.
Instead, I'm here with you fighting cartel to get a Senate.
What's happening?
And to make sure we take back the White House, because if we do, we're going to make America better than ever before. We're going to make
Hundreds of people were there filming Thomas Crooks. Look at him. Look at that. Look at that right there. Look at him. Look at this. What I'm saying is that, unlike, man, I hate to do this. I hate to do this because it's still so fresh, dude. Unlike Charlie, where we actually, and there's so many questions about this, but we actually don't have any video of the shooter, like at all. We have shockingly and chillingly little footage of the shooter and their activities that day. And I pray that all of it comes out in trial and it is beyond a shadow of a doubt and it is demonstrable. I pray for that. But like, we don't have footage like this at all. With President Trump, there's no question what happened when it comes to how Thomas Crooks got where he got. He was allowed to do this. I'll say it. Thomas Crooks was a runway was created by 100 concurrent miracles for Thomas Crooks to fall ass backwards onto that rooftop to get these shots off. And here he is, ladies and gentlemen. Look at the number of people. Look at the number of people. Dozens? Hundreds, maybe? That just saw the shooter. That were filming the shooter. Look at this lady. This lady in the Harley Davidson shirt. Look at that. Look how obvious it is. There's other footage. ALX. Thank you. It's, man, dude, sometimes it's just the ALX AI, the Klein AI. Look at this. This lady is filming from her Nokia flip phone, 1080p. This is like this is not high quality, high def. She doesn't have a telephoto lens. This is amateur footage from someone with their, I don't know, old iPhone, no camera update, and they're able to see Thomas Crooks. I'm sorry that I'm belaboring the point. I'm going to get to the Tucker stuff. I'm sorry. I apologize. I just want to build up the case. And the case that Tucker presents is so critical. You have to understand what a catastrophic failure of security this all was. And when you learn what we just learned about Thomas Crooks in this Tucker documentary, you will want to claw your eyes out. You'll be your blood will boil. Because you'll say, this was all an inside job. And that's just the only conclusion that there is left. There's no other conclusion left. I want to just bring up one final important thing. Just one final thing. That not only is this an unguarded rooftop, but it wasn't. Can you show the sniper footage one more time? Not only is this an unguarded rooftop, and thank you, that was also great. This also totally worthwhile video. But like, can you show the sniper footage, the sniper nest? It was a guarded rooftop. And the people that were there guarding, the local snipers that were there guarding it, had no communication with the Secret Service, had no comms on the ground, and had been locked out of their sniper nest. They'd been locked out. This is where they had a full sniper kit set up. In fact, this sniper took this photo of Thomas Crooks looking at his phone. And we've asked everyone we could possibly ask on planet Earth, what was he doing? Who was he speaking with? What was Thomas Crooks doing in this moment? Who was giving him orders? Who was telling Thomas Crooks where all of the security vulnerabilities were that day? Who was designing Thomas Crooks's movements? Who was controlling him? Something happened that day where Thomas Crooks, in spite of himself being a lumbering dumbass, slamming into security, slamming into the Secret Service, making himself as obvious of a target as possible. Something happened that day where Thomas Crooks was able to penetrate and perfectly get to this location without being blown to smithereens by the snipers that protect President Trump or the local snipers and teams that were there to guard this rooftop. One final thing before we move on. If you will please go to the fence line. Go to maybe maybe that footage of me there from the fence line because I went there, right? Okay, so here I am talking about the rooftop, and I want to show you guys something. Where I was, this is the fence line here. You'll notice the red barn, it's iconic because it's in all the footage, obviously, of this day. There was no security here. This fence line, and let's go ahead and show you where Trump was. Okay, so obviously you recognize this, right? Everyone recognizes those two red barns. It's burned into the back of our brains. Look at that. Look at that. Look at this. That's how close you could get to Trump with no security. I know. Stop screaming. But it still makes my blood boil. This is how close. There was zero security screening up to this fence line. Let me prove it to you. Here is some of the footage from the people, and either the Fox footage or the amateur footage. Here's some of the footage of people there with their coolers and their lawn chairs. They were there to see Trump, and they just rolled in. Yeti, full of Coors Light. Freaking sounds like an awesome afternoon, and I don't blame them for it. It's a great afternoon. And you don't have to stand in any security line. They don't have to be touched by Secret Service. They can just park their car in the ditch, and they can just roll up to that fence line with with nobody checking what they were bringing. They could have been bringing IEDs. They could have been bringing a rocket-propelled grenade. They could have been bringing a sniper rifle. They could have been wheeling C4. They could have brought a bag of grenades. They could have brought deadly weapons that I'm sure I don't even know about that are available right now, that are classified, that are the most dangerous weapons on earth. They could have brought it right up to that fence line. Let's go ahead and watch. Right there. This is the perfect freeze frame right there. There's the famous American flag. There's President Trump. Obviously, President Trump is right under that American flag. Look at all the people standing along the fence line. None of them were vetted. None of those people were vetted. Not a single one of them touched a security perimeter or protocol. All of those people were sitting there within eye line of President Trump that day without any screening from the Secret Service. And you wonder, how did Thomas Crooks do it? Well, look. It could have been any of them. What if that day, any power on earth, any nation on earth, had decided to just put 5 well-trained snipers right along that fence line and create a kill box for Donald Trump that he definitely wouldn't have escaped? What if they were like true military trained snipers? Look at that. Perfect. This is obscene. They had Trump in a kill box. That's why we named our documentary Kill Box. Enough ranting. I'm so angry about it. One final very peculiar thing that we learned was that Thomas Crooks trained at a gun range that was regularly used by the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI. It's called the Clarion Sportsman Club. And this is a club that has Homeland Security special investigation units that train at it. And those were the units that were protecting Trump that day. Trump had his Secret Service underfunded and understaffed, and DHS was backfilling the agents that day. And they happened to come from the HSI, Homeland Security team, that also just so happens to train at the Clarion Sports Club at the exact same time that Thomas Crooks was learning how to shoot there. That's interesting. It's very strange. You can actually see Thomas Crooks on the same line as DHS. Would you look at that? Thomas Crooks on the phone. One of the most chilling photos I think ever taken from a sniper that was eventually locked out of his sniper position so Thomas Crooks could get to the kill box. Who was speaking to Thomas Crooks? We finally have some evidence of who Thomas Crooks was online. Tucker Carlson, ladies and gentlemen, in his bombshell report today, details and proves beyond a shadow of doubt that he has the messages, the comments, the YouTube comments and user comments of Thomas Crooks. That Thomas Crooks had a extensive digital footprint, and that while he started off as a very dangerous and seemingly manic Trump supporter, he flipped on Trump in the year 2020 after COVID. Something terrible happened to Thomas Crooks. His brain broke, and then he began espousing violence against the right and the federal government. He did espouse violence against the left. He did make racist comments online. But something happened in the year 2020, a full 4 years before the shooting, where Thomas Crooks became a rabid, radical, and very violent leftist. Something extremely dark happened. Here we go. Tone switch.
On various occasions, Crooks openly said things like Mueller should be hanged along with the rest of the Democrats involved in that witch hunt. And I always believed being patriotic was lining up a bunch of socialist Jews, like the ones who booed Trump, and blasting their useless brains out with an AR. And yet, in early 2020, Crooks seemed to change radically. On January 23rd of that year, he referred to, quote, Trump's stupidity. He began to mock the concept of the deep state. He suggested it was a code word used by Trump supporters for, quote, anyone who disagrees with the right wing. Suddenly, he sounded like an MSNBC commentator. In February of 2020, he called out Trump supporters as, quote, too brainwashed to realize how dumb you are. I mean, literally, you guys sound like a cult at times. That same day, he called Trump and his supporters, quote, racist. It was an amazing transformation. That April, during the peak phase of the coronavirus lockdowns, Crooks wrote, quote, it seems that you people don't understand that sometimes public safety comes before your personal rights. Are you not willing to quarantine one member of your family to save the rest? If so, you are not a patriot and you aren't protecting anything. Around this time, the new left-wing version of Thomas Crooks became very critical of conservative media. He said at one point, quote, going to a Chinese New Year's party in America isn't putting you at risk for coronavirus, because, believe it or not, viruses don't spread through race like Tucker Carlson probably told you. That May, as state officials across the country overhauled election systems to promote mail-in voting, Crooks attacked Republican concerns about voter fraud as, quote, ignorant. 4 months later, in August 2020, his tone had shifted even further to the left. He said, quote, I believe the outcome will be irrelevant. In response to the same video, Thomas Crooks issued what sounds a lot like a digital manifesto. Quote, in my opinion, the only way to fight the government is with terrorism-style attacks. Sneak a bomb into an essential building and set it off before anyone sees you. Track down any important people or politicians, military leaders, etc., and try to assassinate them. Any sort of head-to-head fight is suicide, and even ambush or surprise attacks likely aren't going to end well.
Okay. Thomas Crooks broke hard left during COVID. There are many people who had their brains broken by COVID. What Tucker Carlson's reporting here proves is that Thomas Crooks was a violent person who had very dark thoughts about attacking members of the government, whether they are members of Congress, the president, or federal law enforcement. That is the theme. Whether he was supporting Trump or whether he was turning on Trump, whether he was attacking Trump, and he eventually led to him trying to murder Trump, hitting President Trump in the head with a bullet. That is a consistent and present theme in just one of his social media accounts. Tucker uncovered over a dozen social media accounts. All of them have been scrubbed. But then there's something very concerning. They all go dark when a very mysterious account that seems to be of a foreign user tied to some very radical groups, very strange groups, violent groups, terrorist groups, contacts Crooks. What happens in these scenarios is there are forces in this world, and I'm not going to suggest who was behind this, but when you see someone like Thomas Crooks online, you groom him. You see the rage and the anger inside of this young American. You see them outwardly projecting this, a call and a cry for help. And if you are a dark enough and sinister enough force, then you take them under your wing and you begin to manipulate them. You begin to control them. You can channel that rage and that anger into a real world result. And that is what I believe Tucker is getting at here. And that is also what I believe the current FBI and the Biden FBI is covering up. Here we go.
At that point, a new character emerged into the conversation, a user named Willie Tepes, who started pressuring Crooks to commit violence. For example, quote, "If a gun and a badge is all that is needed, then authority obviously comes from the barrel of a gun. We have more guns than they do. There is no way we can avoid a war at this point, so you better just get used to the idea. We have nothing to lose and everything to win. And the alternative, a global police state, is unacceptable. Nothing in life is simple, but that is no argument against doing it." So who is this Willie Tepes? Unfortunately, we don't know. The FBI hasn't made any mention of him in public, although they certainly know he exists. Just days after the shooting, somebody screenshotted Tepes' YouTube account page, despite the fact he had very few followers. To the extent that he can be traced online now, you can find his username being used on a foreign Antifa website. Those sites link him to the Nordic Resistance Movement, which has been designated a terrorist group by the U.S. State Department. That's all we know. We do know, however, that Crooks' online footprint abruptly ends after his encounter with this mysterious figure, Willie Tepes. Regardless of whoever Willie Tepes is or was and what his motives may have been, who he may have been working for, there is no doubt that Crooks was ripe for recruitment by someone.
Tucker goes on to say that the behavior of the FBI after the murder of Corey Comperentor and the shooting of President Trump is strange in the extreme. That they scrubbed all available evidence, never allowed for an independent toxicology report, cremated the body instantly, power washed the roof. They accessed Thomas Crooks' phone almost immediately. Were able to get inside of it and were able to uncover a treasure trove of messages, documents, searches, and potential co-conspirators. All of this evidence is available at Quantico, including, hopefully, preserved biological evidence, spinal fluid, blood samples, brain tissue samples. All of these things you would assume would be preserved by the FBI. Have they been? Let's watch.
The shooting, the FBI sent Crooks' phone to the Bureau's laboratory at Quantico, Virginia. Agents there were able to open it in less than 40 minutes using technology from an Israeli tech firm called Celebrate. According to the Post, FBI officials who served under President Joe Biden accessed Crooks' phone, computer, and his encrypted messaging apps in Belgium, New Zealand, and Germany. Yet none of the online activity the FBI has discovered was referred to in any way in the final congressional report that was released in December of 2024.
By the way, why do we still know nothing about that guy in Butler? What's going on?
That was a good question, a question that most people thought would be answered by the new administration. Within weeks of retaking office, Donald Trump told the New York Post's Miranda Devine that he had, quote, ordered the Secret Service on Friday to provide him every bit of information about his two would-be assassins.
You've had two assassination attempts. One, obviously, where you got hit by that bullet in Butler. There's a lot of frustration that we still don't know about that shooter in Butler. And we don't know about his communications. We get stonewalled all the time asking questions about it. Is there frustration on your part? Will we get transparency? Will we know the bottom line story?
It's very interesting because we have great people. I think Pam is incredible. I think Cash is incredible. And they're doing a great job. They're being recognized as doing a great job.
But you're the president. Can't you find out?
No, I know. I'm relying on my people to tell me what it is.
But his people insist there's nothing there, and they don't seem interested in finding out more.
But there is something there. There has to be. Because even in this very short expose, it's about 30 minutes long, and the major new information brought to bear were some new videos of Thomas Crooks, pretty benign videos of Thomas Crooks. Some videos of him dry firing his firearm and some just other weird stuff. But really, it's the YouTube comments, the comments of Thomas Crooks that paint the picture of a very radicalized and violent and dangerous young man who made constant and consistent threats against the federal government, sometimes in favor of Donald Trump, against Trump's enemies, but then shifting rapidly against President Trump and his supporters. And then the FBI lies. That's what's so remarkable about all of this, and why Cash and Dan must act on revealing who Thomas Crooks truly was. Because the FBI went before Congress, and the former assistant director of the FBI said that Thomas Matthew Crooks was a right-wing radical. Christopher Wray went before Congress and questioned whether Donald Trump was even shot at all. Maybe it might have been a piece of glass, says Christopher Wray. The FBI literally hosed down the building the day after the shooting. This is not normal for the FBI. The FBI doesn't do crime scene cleanup. What the hell is going on here? Why have we never seen any blood samples? Why have we never seen any tissue samples? Why have we never seen any toxicology reports? Why don't we know anything about Matthew Thomas Crooks, what drugs he was on, who was controlling him, what was inside of those devices? Who was he talking to before he shot Trump? How did he know every single security vulnerability on the building? So obtuse was his movements that day that hundreds of Trump supporters filmed him from their cell phones in their lawn chairs. Tucker saying, listen, this is clearly an inside job by the federal government. Here we go.
The reality is that the FBI, as of today, is not only stonewalling, but is actively preventing an honest look at what happened in Butler. Within days of the shooting, FBI agents collected all the relevant surveillance footage. That includes footage from local businesses, the state police, and critically, the gun range where Thomas Crooks trained. Did he train alone? We don't know, because to this day, the FBI refuses to release the footage. They confirmed it exists. They confirmed the existence of one gaming account, and then publicly said a few days later the account wasn't real. Was that incompetence, or are they lying? Within a day of the shooting, the social media companies that hosted Crooks' comments took his accounts offline. In some cases, the records of those comments in the Internet Archive were also erased. Did the FBI order that too? What we do know is that on the day of the attacks, Thomas Crooks got extremely lucky. Miraculously lucky. After he arrived at the Butler County Fairgrounds on the morning of the shooting, Thomas Crooks conducted surveillance by flying his drone over the rally site. He flew that drone for 11 minutes. It just so happened the Secret Service's anti-drone system were down at exactly the same moment. What are the odds?
That's something I can't square. If you really want to know who's protected by our federal government, who are the people that are really running things, you need to ask the question, who and what can't I criticize? In order to find that out, you need to go into the Wayback Archive. That's something that we use. It's very niche. It's boutique. That is something that we use all the time on this program. The reason why is that the internet is forever, and there is an archive. There are multiple archive sites, but the Wayback Archive is a very popular site that logs all available user data. Like, let's say you delete a tweet. Well, you can still go find it if you have the right metadata. It doesn't matter. It's the history. The internet is forever, right? According to the Wayback Archive, this is what we use right here. You can see it on your screen. It's available for everyone to use. It's just a way of keep people accountable. We use it all the time. Except for in this case, because we went and checked. Tucker's 100% correct. Someone has been manipulating the Wayback Archive. Someone ordered all of Thomas Crooks's available metadata, comments, and activity online wiped. Well, who's in charge of all of this? Well, it's a very shady group of NGOs and nonprofits, but of course it all stems directly through USAID and federal funding. These are leverage points. Who has the power to erase the internet? And that's what happened here with Thomas Crooks. Why? Who ordered that? These are a series of questions that have to be answered, and for the good of the country, they must be answered now. For the life of me, I don't know why the FBI, DOJ, would be sitting on all available evidence. Thomas Crooks is dead. There is no trial. He's not sitting there with the presumption of innocence, awaiting what a jury will find. He's dead. His body was rushed and cremated faster than a household goldfish that was found floating belly up in the tank. Apparently, Thomas Crooks' home, where his therapist parents lived, who didn't know about their son dry firing and ordering explosive materials, firearms, training at a gun range, making all these violent comments. They didn't see anything. They're both professional therapists. They knew nothing. That's what we are to believe. He was getting explosive materials delivered to his home. That's what they found when they searched his room. These boxes of explosives. His parents didn't get concerned about that. His parents immediately hired a high-priced lawyer, like a very high-priced defense attorney. And then when his father was asked a question about it, his dad said, "I need to go piss." This is all true. Everything I'm telling you. Thomas Crooks' house had no silverware in it. It was like a medical laboratory. It had been scrubbed clean. This is according to federal investigators. What's going on? What's happening here? Stop lying to us.